I'm delighted to be here with you today and to share my thoughts on some of the unique challenges women face when they run for political office, the lessons I learned from the recent U.S. presidential election, and some innovative programs and initiatives focused on this important issue. I think the most shocking thing to me personally about our recent election is the degree to which sexism prevails at all levels of our society. Despite all the advances we have made in recent years, there are still enormous barriers that women must overcome as they seek to level the playing field and achieve true equality. Until this year, I never defined myself in feminist terms. I was privileged to have an enormously successful career in the private sector, first at MTV and then at Discovery. I never felt that my efforts were hampered by the fact that I was a woman. Whenever I encountered sexist behavior, which I did, I never let it stop me, and I always felt it was their problem and not my problem. Well, if there is one lesson I have learned from this election, it's that not only is it my problem, but it is our problem, and we must all do everything we can to solve it. So what are some of the lessons we can learn from this election? The principal lesson I learned is that we must all redouble our efforts to be visible, vocal, and vigilant as we work to combat sexism and achieve gender equality. Lesson number one from this campaign for me is that we need to have more visible women in all sectors of society, in political office, corporate boardrooms, on the playing fields, and in colleges and universities, and all of us need to be more visible in our support of them. Increasing the number of women in leadership positions will provide women and girls with powerful role models, change perceptions, and break down barriers to advancement across the board. As you know, and as you've heard, I've spent most of my career in media. As the leader of a global media enterprise, I believed quite passionately that when you have the privilege to deliver information and entertainment into millions of homes and the opportunity to influence the hearts and minds of billions of people around the world, you must hold yourself to the highest ethical standards. Frankly, I am shocked and ashamed by the role many in the media played in this election and their coverage not only of Hillary Clinton, but also of Sarah Palin. In May, I put together a DVD of clips from various news shows, which I took to Howard Dean, the chair of the Democratic Party and a friend of mine. I told him about my frustration with the fact that no one in my party had spoken out against the blatant and ongoing sexism in the media's coverage of Hillary's campaign. I also told him that when arguably one of the most powerful women in the world can be subjected to this kind of treatment by mainstream media and no one speaks out against it, the lives and well-being of women and girls across this country and around the world are endangered. He was suitably outraged and has spoken out on this issue since, but many women feel it has been too little, too late. Lesson number two for me is that we must all be more vocal in our response to blatant sexism. I personally regret not having raised my voice earlier and challenged my party to object to the media coverage of Hillary's campaign. We must shine a spotlight on discrimination whenever and wherever it occurs and not sit idly by and let others defend and continue their outrageous behavior. Finally, lesson number three for me is that we must always be vigilant in our efforts to protect the rights of women. We must not be lulled into a false sense of achievement and assume that we have done all that we need to do. Like many other women, when Hillary began her campaign, I knew we had a strong candidate who had the knowledge, skills, and experience to compete and to win in the most difficult of all arenas. As she traveled the country, millions of people came to see and listen to her. In these audiences were thousands of women and girls. Many of those women had battled sexist attitudes throughout their lives, but there were also hundreds of thousands of young women and girls who viewed those battles as the battles of an earlier generation. Sadly, the treatment to which both Hillary Clinton and Sarah Palin were subjected has made us all aware that the forces and traditions of sexism remain strong and powerful around the world, and that we must all continue to work hard to combat them at every level. Working together, we have achieved much. There are women presidents in Latin America and Africa. Women also hold the highest political offices in their countries in Europe and other parts of the world. There are women governors, members of Congress, and mayors throughout the United States, and someday there will be a woman president in this country. Despite the challenges we face, I remain confident that we can and will achieve gender equality in all sectors of our societies if, but only if, we remain visible, vocal, and vigilant in our efforts to achieve this goal. Thank you very much.